Hello guys, today's story is unbelievable. When you hear it, it's gonna sound like you're reading a fiction book, but yes, some people do have a life like that, and it's 100% a true story. It's a story of a woman who lived with her husband and with her ex-husband at the same house. A murder happened. Who did it? How it was committed? Let's listen to the story next and see how it's unfold. Shall we go? Let's go. Hello guys again with a new story that is so bizarre, so disturbing mentally that it's gonna sound like it's a fiction story, but it's a true story from a house in Jordan, from real people who lived it. So let's start it without any further suspense. So this story happened in Jordan. It was a story of a kid who was born in a family and who had one sister only. So it was him and his sister, but his father passed away young. So he grew up kind of angry at the world because he was really so attached to his dad. He was just a 14-year-old teenager who just was living under his dad with his protection, and suddenly that person is gone. So that was one first hit he got in his life, big hit, that affected him psychologically. Maybe a year or two, his mom got married again, and he didn't accept that reality very well, so he stopped talking to his mom. Of course, she moved to a new house with her new husband and definitely had more kids, and he didn't want to do anything with his mom, and that lasted forever. I think it was the 40s or 50s, or probably the 60s was really back in the days. So that's another hit that he got from his mom. He rejected that reality. Some kids are like that. You have to go through a really intense conversation with them to accept that the mom is gonna be with a different person. The kids consider it betrayal of their dad memory or of their mother memory if they passed away, and the dad or the mom want to be with a new person. Some kids cannot accept that their mom picture is still there or their dad picture is still there in the house, and they don't want anybody to replace them. Anyway, his name was Ayash, and his sister name was Aisha. Ayash and Aisha, they are not twins, but their names rhyme. Some family do that. Hopefully you don't get confused. But the main character in the story is the Ayash. Ayash, when he was 18, he started work. Of course, after all these hits, psychological hits, he didn't care about school. He didn't finish his education, but he gotta find a job. So he found a job at a welding company where they use really dangerous tools to cut wood and weld machines and metals and stuff. So one day he was cutting a piece of metal, or probably wood, I'm not sure. Anyway, an accident happened and the machine broke, so the really sharp tool switched to his hand and cut it off. Half of it. Not all of it, like the rest where the arm connected to the hand. That part got almost amputated. His co-workers rushed him to the hospital. He stayed there like 5 or 10 days, but back in the days, the medical technology wasn't that advanced. They were able to reattach his hand to his arm, but it became not functional at all. Probably the nerves weren't connected well, or the veins, but it's there, but it's not functional. It's like paralyzed. So having two hands in a welding company, of course, it's very important to hold and carry stuff. So the owner of the company sent him his dismissal paper that they're gonna fire him because he cannot perform anymore, and they cannot just give free money to somebody if they cannot do the job or produce in the company. That was the third hit for this poor kid. After that, the kid just stayed home, isolated himself, and didn't talk to anybody, didn't see anybody. He is already not talking to his mom. Even when she want to come and see him or talk to him, he would refuse to respond to her. Completely isolated himself in the house for days and months. One important piece of information is that gotta create people in different shapes and forms and colors, but a very important piece of information in this whole story is that the kid wasn't blessed with a pretty image. He was really ugly. That's the reports, what the report is stating. They insisted that he is not easy on the eye. Not because, I don't believe anybody is just ugly like that. Absolutely. All God creatures are beautiful. I cannot imagine how would someone be ugly if they have a good smile and a good heart. A lot of people, they tell you if you lived with even a model, if she has bad manners, with time she will look like a devil himself. So sincerely, I believe people good spirit and good heart shows on their faces. But that was not the source of his ugliness, not just his physical appearance. Since he was psychologically affected, he could not see people. He could not function in the society, even within himself. So he didn't bathe for months and years, probably, to the point that he had to stay home because people rejected his existence around them completely. And so that also added to his psychological issues, because he couldn't attend even public events like weddings or gatherings or some religious occasions that public have. Days passed and he started just out of entertainment. He would just sit by his door house and people watch. They pass by or they talk or whatever happens in town. To the point that he didn't care about anything, to the point that his sister was talking to a guy. And in those cultures, they are very conservative. Girls get killed if they committed something, if they talked to a guy, a stranger, or did anything with him or went out with him. He didn't care at all. He wasn't like one of those brothers. So he saw his sister talking to this guy who was, he collect junks. It was a job and it brought really good money. He collect junks from people or from construction sites and go and sell them to businesses that melt the iron or collect copper or for manufacturing reasons. And it was a good job. It was a source of living for this guy. After a while, his sister told him, well, the guy that talks to me outside, the junk collector, he want to marry me. And he's asking you for my hand. And her brother didn't care. She told her mom and she married this guy. Her brother became close to this his brother-in-law. He didn't talk that much with him, but he was watching how he does his job. He has a truck and he collects junk that cost him nothing, and he makes a living of that. He kind of loved the job. So he started collecting the junk and selling it to his brother-in-law. With time, he got his own truck. With time, people start coming to him to give him the junk and sell it to him, to Ayash himself, and he would give it to his brother-in-law. With time, he stopped even selling it to his brother-in-law and started going to those businesses or companies and sell it to them himself. He became so good, and because he's young and strong and angry at the world, he put that anger into a good cause, where he started working really hard, driving all over the town. He went even to the towns next to him. With time, believe it or not, God didn't bless him with a beauty, but he gave him a marvelous businessman mind. With time, he bought assets, and the assets fed other assets, and he became really financially comfortable, one of the wealthiest people in town. It was crazy. Now it's the 60s, probably he is 38, and he's a single and not married. No girl want to talk to him. He knocked 100 door. Even with all the money and wealth he has, nobody would approve him as a husband to his daughter, or even be close to him or allow him inside their house because of how ugly and how smelly he is. His mom sent him one of his brothers. He's almost 14 years old or 16. She wants him to work with Ayash because of how much money he has and he's comfortable financially. She wants his brothers to work with him, but he didn't care at all about any of them. He doesn't want to see his mom still. He doesn't want to see anybody of her kids. So he kicked him out. And probably his mom now is in her 70s. And Ayash, as usual, was sitting by his door, people watching. And this girl who was and suddenly he was facing a very pretty girl. She was probably 18 or 19 years old. She was one of the people who heard that he buy junk, metal junk. So she was bringing pots and stuff from her house, and he would pay the money. And like everybody else, she was afraid of him, or she was disgusted by him, so she doesn't talk to him. She would just drop the pots and pans and just would leave, take the money and leave. Ayash was amazed by her beauty, and she wasn't just a pretty, she was wearing really sexy outfit. She was young and she was dressing up. And he really liked her. She started showing up once every week or twice a month, and he was looking forward for her to come in every time. And he liked her so much, he paid her way more than anybody else. Like if the junk is worth $20, he would pay her $200, $300, way more. And she loved it. She would go home, and actually at home, this girl, her name is Mariam is the Arabic name for Mary, so we will call her Mary for the sake of the ease for you guys of saying her name. Mary lived in a house with her dad, who divorced her mom, and the mom, of course, remarried and had her own life. He lived in the house with her stepmom, and the stepmom had more kids. Probably he married this stepmom when she was 6 years old, and she gave her hell on earth. She was a real bitch. She wouldn't treat her like the rest of her kids. She used to beat her up and punish her for anything, and sometimes for no reason. It's a typical story of a bad stepmom. So the poor Mary lived in hell on earth, and she saw a window of freedom when she was visiting Ayash. And she actually one day, after she took the money to her stepmom, she usually hide the money in a box underneath her bed or somewhere in the house. I forgot. But she used to hide it in a box or in an empty can for a milk in the house. And her stepmom, while she was cleaning, she found out about that stack of money. And she immediately went and questioned Mary about it. Mary, out of fear, she told her the story about this guy named Ayash. And she told her every single time, when you come back from this guy, you would give me half the money he gave you, not just the price of the junk. Otherwise, you have no room to live in the house. The weird thing about Mary's situation is that her dad was a slave to this stepmom, and he would do whatever thing she wants, and he wouldn't even defend his own daughter, and that's what made it worse for Mary. So one day, Mary thought about talking to Ayash. And instead of just dropping things and taking the money and leaving, since she saw that he's giving her way more money than she deserved, she saw a window to escape through Ayash. So she told him, hey, if you want to marry me, I'm approving it already. Ayash, oh my God, if you saw his face and eyes, he could not believe himself he's hearing this. He couldn't even wait. He went to her family house the same day, asked her dad for marriage. And of course, the stepmom knew about this guy because of when she found the money, Mary told her about him, and she told her dad, he is loaded with money. You should approve this marriage, because she knew the dad would never approve it, probably because of Ayash's reputation and how dirty he is and his weird life, and he's way older than her. She's probably 19 now. No more than 19, 18, 19 years old. So there is a massive age difference between Ayash and her. And Ayash now is actually almost 50. He's like 49, 50. So, long story short, she told him, ask him for a very high dowry. In the Middle East, you can never ask girl for marriage without dowry. I know it's a very weird concept. In America, sluts get paid and you date girls for free, but in the Middle East, you cannot date a girl without paying a dowry first and a promised marriage. So, and actually sluts are for free. Because the concept there is that the girl is from a good family, she's raised well, she probably, if she's educated, the price goes up. If she's from a well-known family name, the price goes up. So the better the girl, the higher her dowry is. Anyway, so eventually they married. And in their wedding day, she's a virgin. He's a virgin too, probably. So the wedding night for virgins in that culture is really big deal. They wait their whole lives for it. Ayash was so shocked that she was standing in his face. She told him, this is not gonna be how you think it's gonna be. You can never touch me. You can never sit next to me. I don't want to see you at all. And you have to sleep in the other room. This is the deal. Ayash was in shock. Like, what the hell is going on? This wasn't the deal. We are supposed to be husband and wives. This weird situation lasted months and weeks, and Ayash broke down one day and started crying, please, you can do this. That's why I married. I want companionship. I want a wife. I want to have kids. And she said, impossible. So he was actually like a slave for her. She was really a very strong personality. She actually asked him to teach her how to drive a car, and she started leaving the house without his permission or without telling him where she's going. Even when he asked her where she's going, she would say, none of your business. And he gave her so much money. He gave her everything she wants, just hoping that she would let him touch her or kiss her. Or eventually, with time, she let him sleep next to her one day, one night, or 1 week, sometimes here and there. And he just spoiled her like no woman ever on earth. She actually became famous in the neighborhood that she has so much gold. She would wear it and brag about it. Even her stepmom, when she would come to visit her, because she now became wealthy of a status, she would kick her out and she would talk back to her, and she became very powerful marrying Ayash with all this money and the social status, and people would come to her, they want to just hang out with her or ask her for money sometimes. So she even had a social power. Until one day, Mary became pregnant. She didn't want it. She was actually taking contraceptives, but it's got well. So she kept the pregnancy, and she kept treating Ayash really badly, to the point that she told him, this is not your kid. Don't think that you are gonna be a father for him, despite the fact that he was the father. But she just treated him really bad because she hated him. He was just a tool for her to get out of her father's house. But he treated her very well, the poor guy. With all the money he had, he stopped going to work. He stopped doing anything. He was really felt so depressed and so treated, and was being treated unfairly. The baby was born, and believe it or not, Mary was so bad to the point that she wouldn't even let him touch or see his own kid. She was forcing him to stay and sleep in the other room. And imagine how Ayash felt, and that was another hit, really hard hit in his heart. Mary started after that managing his business, taking care of the baby. And years passed and months passed. Now it's 2 or 3 years, and the baby now is 3 years old, and Ayash still couldn't even touch his own kid. She wouldn't even let him call him his dad, and she's refusing even to let him carry Ayash name. It was that bad with her. Believe it or not, there are people on earth like that. One day, I think Ayash, out of misery because of his situation, now he's 53 years old, 54, and Mary is probably 24, 23. She's really young and really pretty. One of the prettiest girls in town. The poor Ayash, because of his situation and how bad his situation is, and how bad Mary was with him, he was really not feeling well. He had a heart attack, the poor guy. And with that, he became, I don't know what is the word in English, but he became paralyzed. Half his body is paralyzed. Adding to his ugliness and her not liking him, of course, he had to have somebody to take care of him and cook for him. So Mary found some 17, 18-year-old kid who needs money and needs a job, and she told him, you will be the caregiver for Ayash here and there. You will cook for him and feed him and bathe him. So this kid would show up. He wouldn't spend the night in the house or be with him 24 hours. He would show up, for example, in the morning, prepare breakfast for Ayash, change his clothes, or he would show up later on at night, give him his lunch or dinner, clean out the room, and so on. And that's how was Ayash living. And during that time, somebody has to take care of the business, all these lands and rental properties and all these farms, because Ayash, as I told you, became very wealthy and he owned so much properties. He was really smart with money. One of the farms had an entire family renting it and taking care of the land. And this family is consisting of a mom and a dad and an older son. His name is Amin. And he had 2 younger sisters. They used to grow fruits in the farm, and they made jam out of it, and they sold the jam and just took care of the land and made use of it. And they were really poor, so that was the only source of income for them, is to selling the jam. And it was seasonal, because fruits don't grow all of the whole year. It's just some seasons. Mary fell in love with this kid. I mean, she was young herself, and he probably was 24, 25, no more than that. 25 years old, and she was a 23, 24-year-old young, very pretty girl. Mary knew how poor the family is, so she went immediately to the mom, to Amin mom, and she told her about her intentions, that she want to marry her son. In return, she's gonna give them money. The mom was really poor, and she thought that's a great idea, and she spoke with his dad, and everybody approved the idea, and Mary married Amin, the oldest son. His name is Amin. Before that, of course, to get rid of Ayyash, but she cannot throw him in the street, she went and forced him to divorce her. She told him, I want to marry again. Our situation is not going to work. You are paralyzed. I don't want to be with you. I hate you. And Ayyash, the poor guy, out of desperation, he told her, I'll divorce you, but don't leave me. Stay with me. And she said, of course, where am I going to go? You think I'm going to leave this big mansion? And she stayed in the house with him, but during that time she had her eyes on Amin, and she plotted the whole plan to marry him and be with him. Now the dirty twist in the story is that, and that's how the name of the story, how I came up with the name of the story, is that guess where she brought her a new husband? Of course, to the house where she was living. So her ex-husband and her new husband are living in the same house. She brought Amin to the house. Amin was whatever Mary wants, because she gave them the money. He will get out of his miserable situation. And he was really handsome and tall himself. He was probably 6'4", really strong young man. And now the husband and the ex-husband living in the same house. It was a very awkward and weird situation, but that's what the report says. It's not normal. I have never seen or heard of anything like this. But that's it. Everybody lived in the same house. Ayyash still cannot touch his son. He was witnessing the whole situation and all this going on. Mary actually had another kid, and then had another kid. Probably the second one was a boy, and the third one was a little girl. And just they lived their life like Ayyash doesn't exist, and that kid took care of him here and there. And one day, what is her name? We didn't give her a name actually. Ayyash's sister, or maybe did I call her Aisha? Aisha, of course, as I told you, she was married. She has her own family. She had kids. One day she received a phone call, very disturbing phone call from Ayyash. He was crying, telling her, hey, I want you to come home as soon as possible. I'm gonna kill myself. His voice wasn't like, he didn't sound normal. He was disturbed, and he was rushing her to come home to him as soon as possible, and not to bring anybody with her, nobody of her kids. Ayyash now probably is 56, 58 years old, and his sister, she has grown-up kids, of course, and she's an older lady herself. She's in her 60s, probably. She came rushing to the house to see what her brother issue is, and when she walked in, she asked him on the phone, is your bitch wife there? Because she wasn't in good terms with her. Mary would always kick his family members, so they couldn't even visit him or see him unless she's not at home. Is she at home? He told her, no, just come over as soon as possible. When she walked in the house, she found Ayyash laying on the floor with foam coming out of his mouth. She freaked the hell out. She started screaming. The neighbors showed up. People on the street came to the house to see what's going on. She came in the street running like a crazy lady, calling for help. Somebody called the police. The police came to the house and they picked up his body. And of course, they took his sister in custody to ask her what happened and see what's going on. And she almost had a nerve breakdown, so she couldn't talk at all. They took her to the police station, questioned her, and she said, I don't know what happened. I came home and I saw him like that. The police kept the body to take biopsies and do more investigation and collect evidence from the house and from his sister. They released her because there is no evidence that she done it, and the neighbors did say that she just walked to the house. They asked her, who does he know? And she said he's married to a bitchy woman, but she's not at home. Next day, they had to call Mary and her husband to the police station to question them, of course, about what happened, and because the toxology, I think they call it toxology in English, when the hospital make a blood test and they find some toxins in the victim blood, of course Ayyash was poisoned, and that was the main reason of his death, and that's why he had foam in his mouth. He had been given massive amount of arsenic. Arsenic, if you don't know what is it, you can read about it. It's a fatal type of poison that can kill humans immediately if it's being given in a big amount. And that's what killed Ayyash. They found trace of it in his soup. He had some food next to him where he was found dead. And they questioned Mary about what happened. They kept her in custody, she and her husband. And they got a permit to look through the entire house from the court before anything changed in the house immediately. And the next day in the morning, they captured his wife and Mary and her husband, took them to interrogate them in the station. And during that time, another team was looking around the whole house, and they found a bag of arsenic in Mary's bedroom. So when they questioned Mary, they told her what happened. Do you want to tell us the story? She said, she said, I'm happy he's dead, I'm happy he's gone, and now I'm free of that monster. She told that to the police. So when they questioned her, she denied doing it, but she said, I'm happy he's dead, and I'm done and free from that face. When they questioned her, she answered all their questions. She said, they told her, where were you when he was dead? She said, we went in just for a picnic, me and my family. We took some food and we went in a picnic. That's where we were. And when they looked through her car, they found a basket of food and a pot of soup. So they told her, well, when you denied doing anything, how come he has a soup and you have a soup in your pot in your car? She said, well, I didn't want to tell you that because you will accuse me that I killed him, but I did not kill him, and I don't know where that bag of arsenic came from, when they questioned her about it too. Even the husband, he said, we don't know about it. We don't know anything. And of course, if that is not enough of an evidence, they released them both. And they told her, where do you live? One of the questions they asked her, where do you live? She said, I live in the house with him. She said, what do you mean you live in the house with him? You and your husband, you live with your ex-husband? And even the police were really surprised about this whole situation about the husband and ex-husband living with her in the same house. Anyway, the police asked her who he knows, give us names of everybody in the entire circle of this household in the family. She brought her stepmom, her dad, her brothers and sisters, his sister and her kids and her husband. And she told him about the boy that brings food for him. She said, ask him to, maybe he did it. I don't know anything about this poison. So the police had to question everybody, but nobody gave any clue and nobody said anything. And of course, police doesn't just take people answers. They see body language, eye language, and everybody seems to be sincere in what they said. Nobody seems to be suspicious at all, unless one of them is playing the game very well. It was very weird. So the arsenic in the bag, they had to know who bought it and from where, but the arsenic was still in the store. I mean the store name where the arsenic was bought was on the bag itself. It's still on the bag because it was inside a bag from a store where the person who poisoned Ayyash bought it. So they went to that store and they questioned the owner of the store. Did you sell anybody arsenic? He said, I sell it all the time to everybody. They told him, we are gonna need your help to come to the police station and recognize, if you can recognize somebody from a group of people that are accused of killing an innocent person with arsenic. He said, yeah, of course, I'm gonna help you. I know everybody in town. And usually in a little town, everybody knows everybody. And the moment the owner of the store walked into the police station and got introduced to this group to verify faces and who bought the bag, immediately he recognized the 17-year-old boy who took care of Ayyash, who was the caregiver of Ayyash. He said, that's the person who bought it. And then the police got relieved. That's a massive clue. Like, did that kid really do it? So they questioned him. What happened? Why did you kill the guy? He said, I didn't kill him. Why would I kill him? I'm a caregiver. I make money out of him, and now I won't make money anymore when he's gone. Why would I kill a nice guy like him? He was really nice with me. He gave me even more money behind his wife back. Whatever money he can give to him, he gave that poor kid because he was his only companion in the house, so he keep him longer, not just make food for him. He would just encourage him to stay and chat with him and take care of him better even. He told the police that Ayyash asked him to buy that arsenic. He told him, I want to kill rats and I want to kill the bugs with it in the house. And at that moment, when the police couldn't figure out who killed Ayyash, the sister stepped in and she said, well, I have to tell you something. Ayyash told me on the phone, but I have no idea why he said that. He said, I hate Mary so much. If the police questioned anything, tell them Mary killed me. And the sister said, what are you talking about? He told her, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm done living this life. I don't like my situation. I'm done with everything. I cannot handle anything anymore. And I don't want to live this life anymore. His sister started yelling and crying. Hey, don't do it. I'm on my way. I'm coming over. And she doesn't own a car. She walked to the house. And that's how the police knew she didn't do it, because it's a long distance and she can't just kill her brother. They did the math. The time didn't add up with everybody, all the suspects. The timing didn't add up of his death and somebody feeding him arsenic, because it takes a little bit. They don't die right away. Anyway, she told them, My brother told me a weird thing that if the police questioned his death, tell them Mary did it. So, and because I hate Mary, I thought you guys are gonna capture her or accuse her of killing him. But since there is no clue that she did it and she was out of town, now everybody knows that Ayash did it and he killed himself by himself. But how did the bag get placed in Mary's bedroom? She said, I swear on my kid's soul, I didn't do that. So the police thought that even if he's half paralyzed, he must have a crawl or did some effort to leave the bag in Mary's room. So she get accused of his death. That's his revenge from the whole weird situation she made him live with her new husband and kept him watching her happy life and her having kids and being happy with this husband. So with that, that's the end of our story. So Ayash killed himself. The police proved it because his sister confessed. She said, out of hatred, I want her to pay for what she did for my brother and to us. But since she's not being accused and this little kid, poor kid, is innocent and he's going to be accused, he didn't do it. Even when they questioned the kid, he said he didn't do it. I don't need to do it. But if he bought the arsenic and he could have probably placed it in Mary's room, and he might get accused of it, despite the fact that he didn't do it. She has to say the truth that Ayash himself told him he's gonna kill himself, but he did it despite her begging him not to do it. So that's the end of our story. And the story actually didn't end here. The story has more in it to tell because his son grew up. His son has a really different story. His life didn't end there. Him living with his mom and his stepdad, and what happened to all that wealth that Ayash had, that's a complete other story. I don't know if you want to hear it or not. Let me know in the comment if you want to hear it. I could tell it, or maybe I could just start another story. With that being said, have a wonderful day and hope you loved the story. Take care. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I would appreciate it so much. Take care.